Good evening, everyone. We are here for our third Finance Committee meeting, reviewing our 26-27 budget. So tonight we're going to be reviewing 8 budgets. So I wanted to start off just showing a couple of slides of what we've done before. So we reviewed 9 budgets in our first meeting on February 5th, and those budgets totaled up to about 3.5% of the overall budget. We then had a second meeting on February 25th, and that reviewed another 6 budgets, and those budgets total about 1.25% of our entire budget. Tonight, we're going to review 8 budgets, and those 8 budgets will represent about 20.5% of our budget. So in our first 3 meetings, we will have reviewed approximately 25% of the overall budget. And with that, we'd like to get started with Mr. Giardina with Human Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. Our first, our first item is conferences, remains the same as it has been. Basically, we're same all across the board up to repairs. We removed the $500 from repairs because we have not been utilizing it, and I moved it down into BOCES services and records management because frontline has gone up. So in order to cover those costs, we just moved money around with our budget, and our budget remains the same at $48,080.
All right. Are there any questions for Mr. Giardina on Human Resources? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Giardina. We're now going to move on to operations and maintenance. We're going to ask Mr. Tranchina to come up to our table here so that he can walk us through his budget. Mr. Tranchina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We can start off with our first code, which is electricity. Basically, we're looking really at no change there. We've done pretty good with our power. We added the LED lighting, which has really offset some of the costs, which are kind of coming up. We've been seeing rising costs from the air conditioning we're using, but we've been combating that with the LED lighting. So right now we're at a level spot. I haven't received the EPEX predictions yet, but we're hopeful that we're still in pretty good shape. Our fuel oil has been steady on the second code. We're really conscious about what we're spending. We've been hit a couple times this year with the gas interrupt where we have to switch to oil. So the oil looks like we're still stable though, because they called us out a few more times than they normally do because of the extreme temperatures, but we've been able to stay within the same range. We did see a little movement in gas as we go down. I'm looking at almost another, it's about $19,000 for the predictions that I'm seeing as we go up. I've been watching backwards as we're tracking the usage and the money that we've been spending on it. We did add some load to the natural gas with the new sewer plant. So our former sewer plant did not have natural gas heat. So now during the, I keep it as low as possible, but we still need to run it. But that is added load for us. Septic tanks, there's a small increase for $528 for just trucking fees. Things go up a little bit. The dump goes up a little bit. We have to pay a little more at the transfer station. The same goes for the carting fees. So there's a small increase there and $4,350. Our supplies, as we move down to number 7, there's an increase there, which is basically just the increases we're seeing from the suppliers. There's been some of the movement has been sporadic because of the tariffs, so it hasn't really hit us yet, as far as I can see, because we've really been shrinking down on the amount of vendors that we use for only the supplies we need. So we'll move down here to equipment. We're looking to try and get a lift for OES. We have a one-man lift at each building, but we do not have one out at OES. And that's something that could have really helped us yesterday. But we're trying to get each building outfitted with enough equipment where we don't have to truck it from one place to the other, where we need to make a move, because sometimes it's an emergency move. We're adding equipment. We have a lot of accessories for the new Ventrac equipment that we have, and the snow plows. Some of the pieces that we need to replace, as we went through a pretty brutal winter and worked everything almost beyond its limits. But it's basically just for the parts to keep them in good condition. We're putting a line item in for equipment that we've been starting to see some degradation of the equipment as we're using it, like the sweepers and a lot of the equipment that we use in the fields. So I want to have a placeholder there so that we can do this all year long when we need something, and I don't get in trouble there. So, but all in all, the code is down. As we move down to the number 9, we simply have replacements of floor care equipment like auto scrubbers and the floor polishers, burnishers, that type of thing. So that is the same from last year. The equipment, we're not going to buy a truck in this cycle. We're going to look to get one, potentially in the next cycle. So we're trying to, use what we have until it's no longer useful to us, and get every bit of life that we can out of it. In our number 11 here, we're up a little bit. What's happened is, with our new sewer plant, we've had to make some chemical adjustments. So we now have a small situation where we need to add chemicals daily when we're open to keep the pH and the ammonia regulated. It's something that the old plant struggled with, but we were able to get some help from our licensed operator with some of his team to find out what corrections we needed to make so that we were not over our limits for the DEC when we enter the creek. So that's working out good. So, but there is, like I said, there is a cost to that. I did put money in for the roofing. We've been doing really well in-house, taking care of our roofing repairs, getting our own contractors in. They're on state bid, so I can reach this guy when we have problems, and we don't have to, ideally we're going to do major repairs district-wide in a capital project, but we have now needs, so we have to address them. So that's where that comes from. Let's see, on to number 11. We're looking to put some money in for stage curtain replacements each year, starting with this building. We've had some of the stuff come apart, and we're patching it back together, but some of it is getting to the point where we can no longer repair it. So we'd like to start at least once a year going to the different buildings that have different situations where we can replace them. Because, like I said, some of them are beyond. We started with some carpet work. The intent was to start at the high school in the guidance suite, but once we started to get into it, we found asbestos under the floor. We had to make a gear shift. So what happened was I didn't want to lose the slot that we had, so I brought the guy up here because we were slated next for the offices up here. However, it's double the size up here, so we only got half of it done. So basically, going on what we spent to get half of it done, we're looking to clean that up before we start to talk about maybe an abatement down at the high school so we can replace their carpet. And the emergency water deliveries is another piece that we had a pretty bad situation when we entered the drought, where we actually lost 2 of our well pumps, and we were facing trucking water in to stay open. So we were able to get our repairs made, and we also came up with a plan for our well system to run a schedule rather than a regular pressure call operation, which is like you would have in your home. So we made a program and worked it out with Trane where they would rest as much as possible, and we would just get the water we needed to stay open for the day. And we've been using that ever since, and our aquifers are holding steady. Every time we get a big rain, the snow melts, that's helping us, but have we fully recovered? No. So as far as I'm concerned, where we're in guarded condition, I want to keep this placeholder in the event that we need to truck water in here to fill that tower to stay open. Let's see here. We're still at the same number 12. We're about to go another round of air conditioning and air quality as it starts to warm up. We saw that the other day where we started to get some warmer temperatures, so we started to get the calls pretty fast and furious. So this is basically for us, I figured for 36 air conditioners and 24 air quality units per year that we can keep loading in as the accommodations come in, or the 504s, whatever, whichever situation it is, so that we can also cover the electricity costs that come with it. There's a small increase on 13, just for the that's conferences for licensing and the training that we have for our staff, our water license operators, CPOs, and the training that goes with. So there's a small increase just in the fees that they charge, and we added another CPO. The phone code was a small increase. A lot of that is just for batteries. We seem to go through a lot of batteries in a year for our IT stuff and emergency type pieces in the server rooms. Our vehicle repairs on 16 are down a bit. Did I skip one here? Let's go back. Sorry. 15. General repairs, small increase there, just for the up cost from the vendors. But we're in a small increase there. So the same with we took out some money on the vehicle repairs for the body work and things like that. So we've been just because we haven't had any show top other than the flagpole that we bent over, we managed to fix that back up, and it didn't hurt the truck a bit. So that worked out nice. Under service contracts, we are still in a situation where we need to keep upgrading our digital control services at the ESIS, here at the MS and the high school, basically all buildings. So as some of these systems become outmoded or needed updating, we started to do that last year, and it's been working out well. We had some power issues which normally derail us for sometimes weeks. So between working with that to get these upgrades and doing our own work in-house to put in UPS backup and generator power, we're making a lot faster recoveries after a power outage. But these, until we're fully updated, we still have to move that forward. And along with that, is there anything else in there? We did have to do a lot more work to our partition doors. We're seeing failure just from age. We're going to have to talk about replacements at the ESIS, at the high school, the main one, and even the doors here. I'm going to start talking about using curtains instead of these partition doors, because it's kind of an outdated technology, and the curtains are much easier and cheaper to repair, and they serve the same purpose. But once again, we've had a lot of breakdowns. We even have one now that is unusable, so we need to get that addressed. Under 18, basically the change there is we need to replace a lot of our two-way radios. A lot of them are pretty well had it, plus we need to add some more radios for some of our key people at night and days as part of this new DESHA's law, where we're going to have a contact team who is in contact with each other, with security, with each building, in the event that there's an issue where we need our people to be the first responders. So that's going to be all part of that. So that, because at night, like only the night leader would have a radio, but he may not be the guy that I have trained for the CPR. Okay, and moving down the list here to supplies for repairs. Once again, The additional funds there are simply for supplier costs that are going up. We're almost at the end of the LED lighting. I have a couple pieces left. I don't want to go too deep on that right now because the O&R rebate program is closed for this year. So ideally, when we can get a really good deal on this and we do it ourselves, we save a ton of money on the installation. We get all the rebate money from O&R and we save on our power. So that's important stuff. And then there's disposal costs. So basically what you're seeing there is disposal costs still that are on the table from what we harvested after the LED conversion. So that brings me right to the bottom. But if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to fire away.
I have a couple simple ones. Regarding the natural gas on line 3, are you sure that that increase is going to be enough for you? Of course you can, if Nick is okay with you responding.
We talked. So there was a coding issue with the way that the billing was coming in
Okay.
with a third-party supplier. So some of that natural gas charge should have been up in the electricity lines. You see how underspent electricity is? If you add electricity and natural gas, it's going to be pretty comparable
Got it.
compared to the two.
Okay, well then, let's see what else I got. Same on the repairs in line 15. Are you comfortable with just the small increase of 3,500 based on your historical?
Well, basically what we're really trying to do now is do just what we need to. Certainly I'll take anything you'll give me. If you want to double that,
Well, you know,
I'm kidding.
if you run into something in particular in 24, 25 that,
What I'm seeing is a decent trend where we're not having catastrophic failures, but we did, like I said, we did work some things pretty hard this year, but that's where I wound up asking for that in the equipment code in case they're flat out
okay,
replacements.
so maybe we'll make a note this year if it doesn't seem like enough,
right.
then that's
Then
something we gotta look
we can
at
go-
next
we can
year, right?
circle back.
Sometimes what we do too is if we get towards the end of the year and we look like we're going to be favorable, we'll say, Nick, what else you got to get done?
Right,
And
let's
we'll
get some
kick
things
more stuff
fixed.
over to them.
And Mr. Tranchini, you've been doing a heavy-duty preventative maintenance program as well the last couple of years,
Yeah.
correct?
We're going after everything we can to and it really paid off that we made it through the winter without some serious breakdowns, even though we had some, because a lot of the things that would normally really give us a lot of trouble we had already addressed. So really we saw some deep cold this year, but we were able to get through it, for the most part.
Okay, and then my last little kind of odd question perhaps, on the bathroom partitions, the 2,500 you budgeted, is that just like replacement when they're starting to go, or are you repairing partitions?
It's both, but basically what that's for is after we put in the privacy rooms, we're looking to go back around, especially where all the urinals are, where there are no dividers, and install them.
Okay, because I was going to ask if you've heard in your different conferences any guidance of when we're replacing those multi-stall partitions, them going all the way down to the floor.
Really,
It's some
haven't-
guidance I've heard in my profession, so I was just curious,
Okay.
like,
Well, I'll
if you are
look into
replacing
it.
them, if that's something that might come as
we were
a
simply
mandate
looking...
to us down the road,
And
that we
and
might
it's
want to
it's
think about
possible,
it.
just like the changing rooms, but what I had intended was not like floor to ceiling.
Okay.
just
I was
some
curious
privacy.
A little more difficult.
If any guidance had come down that might be something on the horizon that would be a recommendation,
Well,
so,
I'll certainly look into it.
thank you. That's all I have
You're hearing it on your own?
Thank you.
You're hearing it from the fire department?
From our district lawyer, what says, anything new you're going to do, put it to the floor.
Any other questions?
No, I have none. Patty covered them, thank you.
All right. Moving on, Mr. Tranchina, thank you very much. We have budget number 12, BOCES instructional programs. Mr. Renato?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Monahan. Running through the fairly short list of budgets here, if you run right down to the bottom, you see that we are requesting a $14,750 increase, which represents a little less than 0.5% in these budget categories. The entirety of that dollar amount is wrapped up in the first budget line, which is the BOCES staff development line. The reason for that is that line represents the costs that we pay for BOCES to perform professional development activities for our faculty and staff. We have been making a more concerted effort over the past couple of years to utilize BOCES more and more for this service. First and foremost, they do a very good job. And then obviously, if we do utilize them, we're able to receive some reimbursement for that for state aid. So we're asking to have that line increase a little bit. The rest of the lines all remain the same. The BOCES curriculum development, the next line represents COSER costs essentially for us to participate in various COSERs that BOCES offers. You see some of the examples of those that are listed below. The third line, the BOCES EHA, that represents the costs that would potentially come to play if we had students that are between the age of 16 and 21 that we'd have to provide educational services for in the local correctional facilities. We don't typically use that a whole lot, but that line is there in the event that we had to do so. The fourth line, the BOCES Alternative Education, is exactly that. So this represents services that we provide for, or we use BOCES to provide services for students for alternative educational situations that are not necessarily special education or career and technical types of services. So you see one of the examples that's listed there is the SPARK program. That is a program that's essentially based upon behavioral needs for students. And then finally, the last line you see is the BOCES Occupational Education. On any given year, we have roughly 175 students who participate in the CTEC programs, and the dollar amount that you see listed there represents the tuition costs to send those students to BOCES for that program.
Questions for Mr. Renato?
Self-explanatory.
Now we have budget number 13, miscellaneous instructional codes. Mr. Renato.
All right, and Mr. Witherow and I will tag team this one a bit, because some of these are mine and some of these are district-wide. But essentially, again, jumping down to the bottom, you can see that there is roughly a $63,000 increase in the various budgets in this code, which represents 11.69% increase. And much of that increase is in the last code that you see there, which is the School Community Projects Code. And that code represents essentially the costs that we pay to the Orange County Sheriff's Office and the Mount Hope Police Department for our SRO and SSD programs and for the officers and the deputies that they send to us that are in our buildings each and every day. The rest of the codes on here have essentially stayed flat. And running down through them, again, line 2 represents the costs that we pay to participate in several purchasing agreements. Tutoring services is pretty straightforward. Supplies risk management, this is the code that we utilize to purchase a lot of our emergency and safety materials here if we need signage. This year we purchased several Stop the Bleed kits. If you walk into the foyers of our buildings, you'll see that there's Stop the Bleed kits that have been installed along with all the AEDs in the foyers of each of our buildings. Line 6 represents tuition for public schools. Textbooks for private schools, the next line, that's essentially the costs that are associated with any textbooks for students who are Minisink Valley resident students who attend private schools. We are still responsible for providing instructional materials for those students in those schools. Line 8 represents the school physician services. So this is Dr. Little. She is our school district physician. These are the fees that are associated with all of the services that she provides to the district. Line 9, I'm sorry, Mr. Witherow, I'm kind of hiding here.
So the health services, that's the health and welfare billing that we see pretty regularly. So when we do have Minisink students that are attending private or parochial schools in other school districts, they bill us for nursing services, essentially.
So I think we got them all.
Questions?
I have a question just because I'm curious. Who maintains our AEDs and makes sure like the pads are current and stays on top of all of that? Just out
So
of
it's
curiosity.
a kind of a joint effort between our school nurses and our buildings and grounds folks. And depending upon where the AEDs are located, the ones that are located amongst the building are really our custodial staff in the buildings. They check them on a monthly basis, I believe it is. And all the devices that are in the nurse's office are maintained by the nurses themselves. We do maintain a fleet that's the same devices, so that, the pads don't have, 25 different types of pads and so on and so forth.
And are they kind of on like alternating replacement schedules for the pads, or are they kind of hitting at the same time? Because they can get expensive, the pads.
They can, and many of these devices were purchased at the same time, so unfortunately they're not necessarily on a rotating basis.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, we're going to move on to our next budget, which is 19A, our registrar. Who would like this one? I'm happy to cover it.
Anybody can do
I was going to say, there's really no increase in our registrar's budget, so it's remained relatively flat the last couple of years. So
And this accounts for what percentage of our overall budget? 0.0005?
I think probably even smaller than that, Mrs. Reynolds. Okay, moving on next, Mr. Fenton, budget number 19, pupil personnel services.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. So just to start, our equipment line, there's no changes there. One of the larger changes is under contractual services. Here we had, last year we had contracted for Medicaid services with a company called Zycron, and we made the decision to move to a new company by the name of through Questar BOCES to do the Medicaid. Zycron was charging us approximately $50,000 a year for their services, and Questar is about $10,000 a year. So that's where that $43,000 comes from, is there was a $50,000 increase. If you look down on line 20, Questar was moved there for their Medicaid services because they are a BOCES service, so they don't fit under contractual services anymore, so we just moved them down there. And then there was a slight increase to our one-to-one nursing services, just as just the rates increase annually for nurses. So there was a 2% increase there, which brought us to minus 43,000. The next area that you'll see a increase is under supply software. Q Global by Base Scoring is for our psychological assessments, our related service assessments, and educational assessments. That increase just comes from needing additional assessments, and also this line may increase over the next couple of years as a lot of these assessments, specifically through Pearson, are moving to digital versions, and they're requiring us to purchase the digital version of them rather than the paper version. It's, in their opinion, much more secure, and we'll also have to probably purchase iPads in order to administer these, both for the person administering and for the student who's taking them. So as we go through the next couple of years, that may increase slightly, but that's where we are with that. Tuition for private school students, there is a $43,000 decrease there. Overall, there are actually more students that are out of district and private placements. However, the tuitions for different programs are different, and I listed them very clearly on here of where they are. So if you look at a student attending Center for Discovery, the tuition is approximately $146,000 a year, and a student that's attending, say, Center for Spectrum Services, $81,000. So there's just a big difference in those tuitions, and it depends on where those students are attending. So right now, although there's not a significant increase to there's a decrease in the overall budget just because of the real tuitions. And these tuitions come from New York State. There's a rate setting, and we receive those numbers right before budget season starts, and that's where these numbers come from. So these should not change, although sometimes they do, and we get a bill later. On line 20, as I said, there was the increase for Questar Medicaid. Questar staff was already there at one time, so that $11,000 increase is for the Medicaid. And then actually in the last 3 weeks, we've run into a tutoring shortage here at Minnesink, where our in-person tutors aren't available for students, and we have a mandate to provide that tutoring. So we contracted with Full Mind Tutoring, which provides online tutoring services for our students, and that service is approximately $50,000, and we're anticipating, and we just want to be prepared for next year in case that happens again. And then on line 21, that's our BOCES tuition for our students out of BOCES. There's a slight decrease there, although if you look closely through it, you'll see there's a decrease in related services, a significant decrease in related services from last year to this year. I did a comprehensive audit of those related services, looking exactly at the number of students that we have and the sessions that they are provided, and also provided some cushion for those students that we may not have. So we typically keep between 10 and 12 open slots. We're anticipating about 12 going into next year. So although the budget is slightly down, we have enough space for 12 additional students that we may not have currently, and all the related services would be provided to them. And then 2% increase to BOCES itinerant services in line 22, with a total overall budget decrease of $25,121 for a 0.15% decrease.
Questions for our PPS budget?
Looks like that budget's in a good position right now.
I do have one question. It's the tutoring service, the online supplemental. We only pay for that when we use it, correct? It's not like a retainer?
No, actually, the way this works is you pay for the hours. So that $50,000 is $10,000 to be part of the COSER, and then there's $40,000 gets us 500 hours of tutoring.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move on to budget number 20, audiovisual. Mr. Renato?
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Monahan. Jumping right down to the bottom of the sheet again, you'll see that we're requesting $0 additional to fund the audiovisual budget. So a net change of 0%, obviously. Again, zeros across the line. One of the things that we are seeing in our classrooms is that we do have less and less of the bulbs and that type of thing that we used to have for our projectors. We're using more and more of the Promethean boards. But what we're doing now is that much of our AV budget does go to support auditoriums, microphones, lapel mics. We've recently purchased some additional equipment to upgrade the high school auditorium, which has been a topic of conversation at several board meetings. We purchased some new equipment in there, and they're down there today actually installing several new pieces of equipment, including, if I get the name right, a cyclorama, which is a large sheet in the back, and you can actually project onto it to help provide for backgrounds for shows and whatnot. Pretty cool, so we're hoping to be able to start to utilize some of that, but much of that is coming from this budget, and I think we are in a pretty healthy place without asking for any additional funding.
Cyclorama, huh?
That's what I'm going with. I think that's cool.
And then we're going to stay with Mr. Renato for budget 21, technology district-wide.
Okay, so once again, as was the case with the AV budget, if you jump down to the bottom, you can see that we're asking to keep the budget flat. We do believe that we are in a healthy place as it relates to our budget and the ability to support everything that's happening in our classrooms from a technology standpoint, but also to support, if you will recall, the last couple of years we've talked about the fact that we're trying to utilize E-rate funding, which is federal grant dollars, to support our technology program. And essentially, the E-rate program allows for us to purchase technology through BOCES at a significantly discounted price. I believe our current rate is typically around 60% reimbursement. So for 40 cents on the dollar, we're able to purchase quite a bit of high-end technology. So again, moving on down through the lines, everything remains flat. The largest dollar amount that you see there in line 6, that represents the technology equipment that we purchase, and you can see that the great majority of all of the hardware that we're purchasing, we do purchase through BOCES for the same reason I mentioned before. It's the best bang for the buck because of the fact that we do get state aid on the dollars that we spend through BOCES. So that large line there, $550,000, represents typically on any given year, roughly 1,000 Chromebooks, 130 to 150 desktops, the switches that we're purchasing, the computer networking switches that we're purchasing through E-Rate, any associated laptops and desktop replacements, and then as I mentioned before, all of those Promethean boards, those touchscreen TVs that are in all of our classrooms, whenever we need to replace those come from that line as well.
Questions?
Looks good.
Well, then, we've come to the end of our Finance Committee meeting. I'll turn it over to Ms. Reynolds.
Well, the next meeting is going to be where we go over the majority of our budget, and we were just talking, and maybe we'll get to have a little bit of talk about our capital projects and where we stand with all of those things. So the next meeting is really the one to watch, and all of the information for every budget meeting that we have had and that we will have is on the district website. And if you can't find the answer that you need there, you can email the business office.
Budget questions?
budgetquestions@minnesink.com, a dedicated email address. And then that's it. Hopefully we can get everybody on board for budget vote.
Absolutely. So again, as Ms. Reynolds said, the next Finance Committee meeting will be March 26th, in 2 weeks from now, and we will finish up those remaining budgets, and then hopefully have some more information and insight from New York State and where they are with their budget process. New York State, the legislature has released their one-house budgets, so now this is where the negotiations begin with the legislature and with the governor, and we'll see how all of that shakes out over the next couple of weeks. And with that, we are concluding our Finance Committee meeting.